Pack your bags, we're headed on a big old ride, with dreams of sunlit shores and the open skies, from the hills of Cyprus to where the world collides.
Today, we're doing something kind of different. We're time traveling back to December 2005, to be exact, to experience Dublin at Christmas through the eyes of,
I like this already.
Rob and Mandy. Yeah, they left behind this pretty detailed travelogue.
Cool.
And we get to go through it with them. Think festive lights and cozy pubs and maybe even, a touch of Irish magic. You ready?
I'm so ready for this. This is so much better than just reading a guidebook, We get to feel their trip.
Exactly. And you know what I love about their travelogue is all those little moments, all those little personal discoveries that just make a place come alive.
Yeah.
So our adventurers, Rob and Mandy, they started their journey with a quick flight from Cardiff. And they landed in Dublin just in time to catch the city all decked out for Christmas. They stayed at this place called the Camden Court Hotel.
Camden Court. Interesting. It's a bit off the beaten path, but still close to everything. Sounds like they wanted a mix of cozy and convenient.
Yeah. And their first impressions of Dublin. Pure Christmas magic.
Yeah.
City center glowing with lights, shoppers bustling about. Festive cheer in the air. Yeah. Picture the iconic Penny Bridge in the Spire.
Yeah.
All dressed up for the holidays. And of course, a cheesy photo op with the Molly Malone statue. Had to.
Oh, the Molly Malone statue. I mean, it's a classic tourist trap, some might say. But still, it's an image that's so tied to Dublin. You almost have to go.
It is.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And speaking of classic Dublin experiences, they made a beeline.
Okay, where'd they go?
For the Guinness Brewery.
Of course. I mean, can you even talk about Dublin without mentioning Guinness?
Yeah, right.
But were they into beer before? Or was this a new thing?
Yeah, well, it looks like they were fascinated by the whole brewing process, learning all about the ingredients and how long it takes to make a perfect pint. And of course, they did the tasting.
Oh, yeah. In the Gravity Bar.
In Gravity Bar. They loved it. Those panoramic views of the city.
Oh, it's iconic. I mean, yeah, it's touristy, but it's pretty cool seeing the city like that with a Guinness in hand.
Yeah. Okay, so after all that liquid Dublin, they went for something a little different. Rob decided to get a haircut and a wet shave at a traditional barbershop.
Okay.
And Mandy joked that he came out looking 5 years younger.
Ah, that's cute. I love that they had these little everyday experiences. It's not just the big sights, it's the little things that make a trip memorable, right?
Right. And they didn't mention the name of the barbershop, but it sounds like one of those old school places where time stands still.
Yeah.
It's the kind of place where locals gather.
I love that.
Yeah.
So we've had festive buzz, iconic drinks, a local barbershop. What's next?
Well, next they decided to dive into Dublin's historical side with a visit to Dublin Castle.
Dublin Castle. It's not just a building. It's a symbol of Irish history, centuries of power struggles and rebellions. It's got to have some stories.
Yeah. And they don't mention specific events or anything like that, but you can see it in their photos, that sense of awe. They were clearly moved by the place.
I bet. And then after all that history, did they need a change of pace?
They did. So they went to one of Europe's largest enclosed parks.
Wow. Okay, which one?
Phoenix Park.
Phoenix Park. That's quite a contrast, huh? Going from this historical heart of Dublin to this huge green space. It's like another world. Wild deer roaming around those meadows.
Yeah, they described feeling a sense of peace there, which I think they needed after all the hustle and bustle of the city.
Absolutely. So after all that fresh air, what did they get up to? Another taste of Irish heritage, maybe?
You got it. They went to the Jameson Distillery. They wanted to, experience another iconic Irish drink, but this time...
Oh, into the world of whiskey.
The world of whiskey.
Did they know much about whiskey before? Or was this a new thing for them?
It seems like they were more beer drinkers before the trip.
Okay.
So this was a bit of a step outside their comfort zone.
Oh, nice.
But they loved it, the whole process, the distillation, the tasting. They were captivated.
There's something about a distillery tour, isn't there? It's all the senses, the copper stills, the smell, the taste.
Yeah.
So what kind of Jameson did they like best?
Let's save that for later. Okay, so after the distillery, they hopped on, a hop-on, hop-off bus tour.
The classic bus tour. It's a good way to get an overview of the city, but I wonder What stood out to them? Was it just the views, or were there any stops that they really liked?
Well, in their notes, they mention uncovering hidden corners and ancient landmarks they wouldn't have found on their own.
Oh, intriguing. It's like even in a city that's, been explored so much, there are still these little secrets.
It is. Like they were seeing a whole new side to the city, like peeling back the layers,
I love that. It's like those guided tours. They can point out things you'd never notice on your own,
Yeah.
It's like having a local expert whispering in your ear.
Right. And speaking of local secrets, it's time to dive into Dublin's famous nightlife. Their first stop,
Where to?
O'Donoghue's Pub.
Oh, O'Donoghue's. It's a classic, that traditional Irish music, the atmosphere.
Yeah, they were mesmerized by the music, the energy, the sense of community. Their notes are filled with descriptions of lively tunes and banter between the musicians and the crowd.
Oh, I can practically hear the fiddles.
So they had their fill of traditional Irish music, the quintessential pub experience. But
Okay.
what did they do next? They went to Whelan's Bar.
Whelan's. Okay. It's a bit more modern, isn't it? More of a mix of musical styles.
Yeah, and they caught a captivating duet performance that blew them away.
A duet. What kind of music was it? Folk? Rock? Something completely different.
They didn't say, but they described it as haunting and unforgettable.
Oh, that's awesome. They sound like they were open to really experiencing all kinds of music.
Yeah, they were.
Oh,
So after all that music, they must have worked up an appetite, right?
right. What culinary delights did Dublin have in store for them? Did they stick with traditional Irish food, or did they try something different?
Well, they went for something a little different, a delicious curry
Yeah.
at a place called Surma Restaurant.
Surma. A curry.
Yeah.
That's interesting. It shows how Dublin's becoming more multicultural, right? All these different cuisines blending together.
Yeah, and they loved it. The flavors, the atmosphere. They even chatted with the owner who told them stories about his family's cooking.
That's so cool. It's those little connections that make a trip special, meeting the people behind the food.
Exactly. Okay, so we've covered festive Dublin, historical landmarks, some Irish drinks, a bit of local life, and even music and food. Where do they go from here?
Well, their trip is coming to an end, but I bet they have at least one more classic Dublin experience in them. A final pint of Guinness, maybe?
You nailed it. They went to the Bleeding Horse Pub.
Oh, the Bleeding Horse. Just the name, it sounds like a proper Dublin pub.
Yeah. Yeah, they described the Bleeding Horse as a classic Dublin pub,
Mm-hmm.
With that warm, inviting atmosphere
Yeah.
and a sense of history.
And it's fascinating how they kind of bookended their culinary journey with these two contrasting experiences,
Right.
the exotic flavors of the curry and the hearty comfort food.
Yeah.
It shows their willingness to try new things.
And I think that openness extends to their whole approach to travel. They weren't afraid to step outside their comfort zone, whether it was, exploring a former prison or trying a different cuisine.
Yeah, they were curious, they were engaged, and they were open to new experiences.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Rob and Mandy's Dublin adventure, I want to leave you with this thought. What would your Dublin story be?
Good question.
What hidden corners would you find? What flavors would you try? What unexpected encounters would you have? Let their experience inspire you to create your own story, to find your own Dublin.
That's a great way to put it. Find your own Dublin.
All right, until next time, happy travels, everyone.
Happy travels.
You like flying where we never hide.
Out on the highway, chasing the tide.